two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Strege, and here I have another discussion today. Normally we do this on Mondays, but I had things to do, so I had my friend Boris here watch the
Hi.
remake to House on Haunted Hill from 1999. And it was directed by William Malone. Um, and let me just say what IMDb says about the film. So, an amusement park mogul offers a group of diverse people $1 million apiece to spend the night in a haunted house with a horrifying past.
Yeah.
So, first impressions of this film. Go, Boris. What was your first impression of this particular adaptation?
Well, it was interesting to notice how different the remake is from the original. Like, they really introduced many new things, and the characters, for the most part, have their counterparts in the original, but they are still different, and what happens to each of them in the end is different. And I don't know who would agree or disagree with me, but I personally, in this case, uh, slightly prefer the remake over the original because it gives more definitive answers to some questions. Like in the original, we never really get to know if the house was haunted or not, while in this one we actually find out it really is, and we get to know more about its history and so on, which was something I found really cool about the remake.
Well, yeah. So, whereas the other film spent time in a house where we learned some of the history through Walter Pritchett's character. We did kind of have that same um, kind of, well, not really history. He just kind of kept that era of doom and gloom kind of going because you didn't really get as much history from him. Whereas we actually got much of the history from the beginning piece of this particular adaptation, where it takes place in a psychiatric ward, and um, apparently, yes, the house. Instead of the invitation being those which Vincent Price's character Frederick Lawrence had initially invited. Notice how um, the man is in fact Stephen Price,
Yeah, yeah, I noticed that.
and his wife's name is still Evelyn. I think that is the same from
uh,
the
I
first. I think
think I think her name was Annabelle in the original.
Annabelle. So her
Uh,
name was Annabelle in the original one. This one's Evelyn. They're they're still they still sound like royal names,
yeah.
like they would have been the name of the wife of a millionaire.
Yeah.
So Stephen Price is played by Jeffrey Rush, and I've seen Jeffrey Rush in quite a few of films. I know he played in what is that superhero film that I love called Mystery Men. Um, as one of the main villains, but he also plays one of the characters on, I believe it's Pirates of the Caribbean films, where he plays Captain Barbossa.
Oh yeah.
But so I can see bits and pieces um, of the um, character of Captain Barbossa um, in Jeffrey Rush. Hold on for just one moment. Sorry about that. That I accidentally pressed backwards and went out of it. But it doesn't matter. I was just getting on the. Okay, so Jeffrey Rush's character, he reminds me a lot of the character of Captain Barbossa in here. So, um, uh, and Famke Janssen, she's from a ton of films that I know.
Yeah.
She was in X-Men as
Yes. That's where I remember her from.
and the Faculty from back in the day. She played one of the teachers um, in an alien invasion. Everyone wanted this kind of thing to happen, that aliens were taking over the teachers or some shit. And
Oh,
she
sounds
played
interesting.
she played this character where she was like this very shy teacher, but when she was alienated into an alien, she became this sexy sireness kind of character,
Ooh.
and more entertaining. And her when her head got lopped off, it actually moved to find her body, and it was kind of an entertaining film.
It does sound that way.
Definitely Lovecraftian that movie was. And that one was from around this time too. But the other thing that you got to realize is that this particular version of House on Haunted Hill was part of several films from Dark Castle Entertainment, which they started doing a brand of horror films that were awesome. I mean, however they put them together, it was amazing. They did a remake of 13 Ghosts. They did a movie called Ghost Ship, which was a fascinating film for horror at the time. And I just thought it was a really well put together company that was belting out these films. In any case, so let's look at the plot here. Um, Obviously, the money has changed from $10,000 to $1 million.
Yeah.
The house has changed to a psychiatric ward that is evidently run by this doctor that is played by legendary horror film actor Jeffrey Combs, Dr. Vandecoot, which apparently he was doing some very sadistic things in his psychiatric ward, and the um, the patients had an uprising, and they didn't like what was happening. So they in fact tried to kill their doctors, but they all, doctors and patients alike, died in a fire, and there were There were 5 people who survived, and somehow, some way, the survivors were invited to this party. That Evelyn saw this psychiatric ward on TV and said, "Oh, yep, I want that for my birthday house." Because
Yeah.
evidently they do a birthday bash for each of their birthdays, apparently, and she just so happened to choose this delectably creepy house. So the it looks like the characters arrived the same way, in coffins, or not in coffins, in hearses.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about each of the characters as they turn up at the house, including Walter Pritchett's character?
Well, they were interesting. At the beginning, it wasn't really easy to connect each of them to their counterparts in the original, but as the plot moved forward, it became more obvious who is who. Although Watson Pritchett, yeah, he kept the same name from the original, so it was obvious that it was him. Yeah, his character was much different than the one in the original. I don't
Although
know.
he
I
still had kind of a gloom and doom thing about him, he had that
mm,
nervousness about him that I think, even though he was more sarcastic and a little bit more dirty with his language.
yeah, yeah, indeed.
This
But
was definite. The dialogue was definitely a product of its time. It was definitely deliberately being um, as dirty mouthed and foul mouthed as you could probably get, because Stephen Price and Evelyn were having a lover spat throughout the whole thing. So when they dug into each other like they did,
yeah,
I mean, when you first see Stephen Pritchett, she calls him and he's like, "Hold on, Evelyn, I'm being shot here." When he was really talking about someone videotaping an interview with him for his amusement part.
yeah, yeah. That's a funny pun.
What did
I
you think about the ride?
Oh, that was really good. That was one of the things they introduced in the remake, and it was really well done, especially the elevator.
Oh yeah, and then of course, yes, you saw that evidently he was placing screaming dummies in with the ride and stuff like that. That actually looked
Yeah.
like it might have been cool. Just replace it with a screamer, why don't you?
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Well, at first I thought that the car was going to go off the track, but that did not happen that way.
Yeah.
But in any case, what did you think about the psychiatric hospital itself? Did you think that it looked pretty twisted and wicked inside?
Yeah, it definitely did. Uh, yeah, no wonder the house was haunted after such things happening there.
Oh yeah, let's see. I was just gonna see. Okay, looking to see if they actually had where this was. Okay, so that the filming locations. Okay, so evidently the House on Haunted Hill entrance was of the Griffith Observatory on 2800 East Observatory Road in Los Angeles, California. Then, of course, they did the ride was at the Islands of Adventure in Universal Orlando Resort. It's actually a real ride, I guess.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
1000 Universal Studios Plaza in Orlando, Florida. Evidently, the House on Haunted Hill entrance was done at Griffith Park at 4730 Crystal Springs Drive in Los Angeles, California, USA. And evidently, they used Orlando, Florida, California, and Santa Clarita Studios in California as well. So much of the inside of the place was actually a studio.
Oh,
It wasn't actually an actual place. So they actually built the sets. It seems so.
oh, I
At
didn't
least
know
that's what it seems from what I can understand.
that.
So when, of course, instead of the chandelier dropping, they had the glass dropping. What did you think of that moment?
Yeah, well, I kind of expected something like that happening, but not that exactly. And yeah, that was another scene where they improvised from the original. Like in the original, this guy Lance saved Nora from the chandelier, from what I remember, and in this case, Eddie saved Evelyn and not Sarah, who was, from what I understood, Nora's counterpart.
Yep. And then the original uh, film, it was Nora that what's his name had to, Lance had to save from the chandelier. So I guess Eddie taking up that Lance figure. What did you think about Tate Diggs playing Eddie? Um, uh, did you have a problem with an African American taking up the role of uh,
No,
Lance
no,
Schroeder or whatever?
no, not at all. I usually don't think much about that kind of things. That was perfectly fine. What's important is how well he performed his role, and I think he
Well,
did a
and he
good
definitely
job.
had an honest face. So it was, or an honest personality,
Yeah,
which is kind of what Lance Schroeder's character was in a sense. I'm assuming that Eddie is the character that they wanted to play the hero of the film, anyways. So let's see, where has Diggs popped up before? Let's see. Okay, so he was in Rent, the movie musical. He was in Equilibrium as Brant. That was an interesting movie. He was in Chicago, the musical, as a band leader. So he's been in some musical stuff. Um,
interesting.
Day of Wrath. He was on Will and Grace a couple of times. He was in Malibu's Most Wanted. Let's see, what else was he in? Oh, he was on 10 episodes of Ally McBeal. But let's see. He got his. Okay, so he was in that black comedy by the name of The Best Man. So I'm assuming that's kind of why he got the role of. Oh, and he was in How Stella Got Her Groove Back. So I think being in those two movies, which those were popular for urban cinema at the time, um, because they liked some comedy dramas at the time. So I think that he played his role pretty much to the best of his ability. I mean,
we,
there's nothing bad that I can say about his role at all.
yeah, definitely, he was good.
Um, I mean, he kind of played a double role in here because he did
Oh,
play that ghost of him, I
yeah,
guess, that made Sarah follow him when they got separated. So there is a character in here that plays a videographer by the name of Melissa Omar, um,
uh,
where she apparently is videotaping everything so that maybe she can, even if she doesn't win, she can create something of a television thing out of this.
uh,
What did you think about her character?
well, she was good, but unfortunately, unlike in the original, well, spoiler alert, she got killed rather early into the movie, so yeah, we didn't really get to see much of her, but from what we did see, she actually seemed like an interesting character.
She does just a little bit, and she herself was in Billy Madison of Adam Sandler, one of Adam Sandler films. She was in Last Action Hero as Whitney or Meredith, the woman in the movie, um, who which that was a Arnold Schwarzenegger film. She also played Sonya Blade in Mortal Kombat from
Oh,
1995.
oh, that was her.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was her.
Wow. Well, it's been
Uh,
a while since I saw Mortal Kombat, so I forgot. I
she,
didn't recognize her.
she did play in Saved by the Bell in 4 episodes as Ginger. Let's see, what else did she play in? Ones that I would probably know. Okay, so she played in The Wedding Planner after this, and she also played in another film called Just Visiting, which was kind of a cute romantic comedy kind of a thing. Um,
Hmm.
and seems like she didn't really have. Okay, so the last movie she was really in, and I've got Extreme Ops. She was Chloe in Extreme Ops. Let's see. That was a snowboarding movie. Let's see. And I guess the last movie that she was in, she played Farah in a movie called Phantom Punch, which evidently is about a boxing champion. So nothing really all too fabulous afterwards, but she definitely had an interesting filmography. You know,
Mm,
she had her time.
yeah.
I mean, to me, one of the most significant roles that she ever played was Sonya Blade. Um,
Yeah,
besides
that
this character, so and of course to end up as a character that was a victim of the good doctor in here.
yeah.
I mean, not to not to say that she didn't lose her head. Um, the film also had some of the same elements. Uh, the doctor was the man who was, apparently the lover, or as far as we know, or at least the helper. We don't know whether he is well, I guess you could say that he was the lover, and
well, yeah, I think
we
so.
didn't expect her to kill him, so
Yeah,
that was different. And then
yeah, that was,
also, um, we didn't expect Stephen Price to still be alive after Sarah shot the hell out of him.
uh, actually, in the original, he survived too, so I think uh, it was somewhat expectable.
Yeah, he survived, but then he died later on in this one. So
Uh, yeah, that wasn't expected.
when he threw Evelyn into that unopened area, evidently that brought the darkness out in the place. What did you think about the darkness itself, the creature that was the entity of this darkness that Pritchard had talked about?
Well, I think it was really well made. The visual effects in those scenes were amazing, and also, like I said before, it's an interesting addition to the movie because in the original we didn't get to find out if the house is haunted or not. And here we see this darkness, and we know that this is the haunting of the house.
Well, they also use elements of cameras that uh, the camera that was left behind by Miss Marr showed that she was dragged somewhere. And then, of course, the security camera that the dude was watching, you saw the doctor on the camera
Oh,
walk into the room. And I love how on that camera he walked all like stiff and slow, that made him seem like he was a spirit of some sort.
yeah, indeed.
So, and Jeffrey Combs, I just want to go to his let's see, go to his thing. Give me 1 second here. Is it in 1999? Yes. Jeffrey Combs. I know him from a lot of things, and I just wanted to bring up his name real quick because Jeffrey Combs was in The Frighteners. He played Milton Dammers. He was in Reanimator as Herbert West. He was in Fortress. And Would You Rather? Let's see. He was in The Wizard of Gore. Let's see. He was in Star Trek Enterprise as Commander Shran in 11 episodes of that series. He was in let's see, Star Trek Voyager, the TV series, in 1 episode. He was on Deep Space Nine for 32 episodes
Oh,
as Wayun. I'm not sure who that is. He was in I Know What You Did Last Summer.
oh, I was very young when I saw that movie. I uh,
He was
who
in
did he
Castle
play
Freak.
there?
He was in Castle Freak. He was in Dillinger and Capone, Cyberstalker, Felony, Love in a 45, Lurking Fear. Let's see, Necronomicon, Book of the Dead, which was a full
Ooh,
feature. He played H.P. Lovecraft in there. Doctor
wow.
Mordred, which was a full moon feature. Let's see, Trancers 2, The Guyver, The Pit and the Pendulum, Bride of the Reanimator, Robot Jocks. Let's see, The Phantom Empire, Dead Man Walking, Cellar Dweller.
Oh,
He was in a movie called Cyclone, From Beyond, The Man with Two Brains, Frightmare, and that's pretty much I know he was in another one in 2000. Oh, the Dunwich Horror. He was in the Dunwich Horror, the TV movie, which was directed by Leah Scott, who is a director who's originally from Milwaukee.
oh, nice.
But yeah, um, I relatively like Jeffrey Combs as a character. He can often play the real creepy kind of guy.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I guess he played in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as the Rat King's voice from
Oh,
2012 to 2016.
wow.
I think he is in a couple of things in 2020. One thing called Unbelievable, and the other thing it says that he's working on, or it's in post production, is Age of Stone and Sky, the Sorcerer Beast. But he was in a segment of the new Creep Show. So,
Ooh.
let's see. What have we not touched on? Oh, Peter Gallagher. There was one other movie that he was in that we had recently watched. Can you guess what it is?
Uh, Wait a minute.
He played
Peter
the
Gallagher.
he
Who
played
did he?
the doctor, the doctor dude, not the lover.
Um, w- Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. Who did he play?
He played Blackburn, and
Oh,
don't cheat.
oh, oh. Okay. Well, so you say he was in another movie we watched.
Yes,
Uh,
he didn't have glasses on at the time. He might have had a collar.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
There was a spinning bed involved in this movie.
Uh, oh, oh yeah, yeah. What was it called? Uh, I, yeah, I know which one you mean, but I can't recall the title now.
It was called High Spirits.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he is no stranger to horror. So, but and I guess comedy, but Peter Gallagher has been in quite a few things too. Let's see if I. Okay, let's see. So, going backwards here for a moment. You can still hear
Mm.
me, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Peter Gallagher. So he's been in a lot of things too. He was in American Beauty as Buddy Kane. He was in While You Were Sleeping as Peter. Let's see. I remember him being in something called The Gathering. It was a TV miniseries where he played a doctor, Michael Foster. Let's see. The Feast of All Saints movie. It was a 2 hour and 20-minute thing.
Wow.
That was based on some Anne Rice material. Let's see. Yeah, House on Haunted Hill, Other Voices, Center Stage. Let's see. Played in a movie called Johnny Skidmarks. The Man Who Knew Too Little. That's right. He did play in a miniseries version of Titanic. Let's see. The Underneath. The Hudsucker Proxy he played in. Let's see. Looking backwards. See the Cabinet of Dr. Ramirez. Yep. High Spirits. Dream Child. The Idol Maker. Guess he started out on Guiding Light, which was a soap opera. Not surprised.
Wow.
TV series called Private Eye from 1987 to 1988. The Murder of Mary Fagan. Sounds interesting. Jack Lemmon starred in it. He's a comedian. Let's see. The Kane Mutiny Court Martial. But anyway. Definitely he's had an interesting career himself. So what did you think about the film on a whole? And is there anything that you want to talk about this film or the plot or anything like that? Anything that you noticed that might have been different that I haven't mentioned?
Well, for example, now that you mentioned Blackbird, I noticed that in the original he had somewhat better characterization, like he was portrayed as a doctor, a psychiatrist, a man of science who clearly expresses that he doesn't believe in ghosts and so on. And in this movie, we actually didn't find out much about him. He was kind of like just there until we found out he had an affair with Evelyn, but until that moment he didn't seem very relevant to the plot.
Well, and no one really introduced themselves really all that much either. Like, you didn't get that much of a hell of an introduction from anyone. Not really. I mean, they just kind of showed up, and the one girl, she started to roll tape. Um, I don't think that Eddie and Sarah really all that well got to know each other really all that well. Although we got to kind of know that she took Jensen's place instead.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to learn that he was adopted until the very end.
Yeah, he may as well have made it up just in order for the darkness to leave him alone.
I do like that Walter Pritchett did decide to help them out of the house.
Oh yeah, that was good.
But on another note, it seems like it followed sort of a trend because I don't know whether 13 Ghosts or this one was done first. There was a ghost that helped that family out in that movie out too after he had died already. So I'm wondering if maybe the plot line was a little bit too coincidental, possibly. I mean, I know you haven't seen that particular film,
Yeah, I haven't.
but we may have to go on about that one eventually. But in any case, what did you think about the fact that they couldn't leave? That house suddenly locked itself down.
Whew. Yeah, that was also different from the original. Like from what I remember, in the original, there was a time until when they could leave, and then they couldn't. While here, Stephen Price said they could leave any time if they wanted to, but then this happened, which supposedly had not been planned, and then they couldn't leave. And yeah, it was pretty well done with all that mechanism in the basement.
Oh yeah,
It was
and
pretty
I know
cool.
that some of the mechanics was probably CGI'd into there, just to show you that there were mechanics there, and
Oh, I,
some of it might not have been because all of this, most of this was done in the studio. So however it may have showed you the clockwork of how intricate this system was throughout this psychiatric ward or whatnot was imagined or probably more computer than it was reality.
I didn't notice that. Interesting.
Some of it might have actually been real stuff, real pulleys and stuff like that, but some of it um, may not have been. And I do believe that there was an element of generative effects in this film, just like I do believe that there were computer generated effects for some of the other Dark Castle entertainment films. So, in any case, what was your favorite scene from this film?
Whew, uh, I actually think it was the final encounter between Evelyn and Steven. Evelyn was actually my favorite character in this movie. Although in the original, I wouldn't say so, but here, yeah, she was my favorite. Well, that was probably because the actress looked really good.
You
Yeah,
talking about Famke Janssen,
y- y-
or
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
I I did feel like her. I do like her. I have liked looking at her. Um, she does have a very good look about her. She is pretty, and
definitely.
um, I haven't minded seeing her in every single thing that she's ever been part of. I know that she was in. In fact, let me go to her. I know she's been in quite a few things. Let's see, Famke Janssen,
Yeah,
real quick here. I mean, granted, she was born in 1964. Really, she's older than I thought. She doesn't. She doesn't make it look like she's that old.
well,
She's like in her 50s.
this movie is from 1999.
Well, yeah, true. She was on Star Trek Generation on one episode, The Next Generation on one episode. She was in the Untouchables TV series at one point in time, the 1994 series. She was in Lord of Illusions as Dorothy Swan. I guess that was her. Um, possible. She was in Lord of Illusions, which was a Clive Barker a film. So that might have been one of her come out films. That was in 1995. She was in Goldeneye, which was a James Bond film. Suddenly she went from Clive Barker to James Bond, and being a Bond girl is kind of something. She played Zanaya Anatab. And I guess she played in a movie called Dead Girl, which was a comedy. Let's see, City of Industry, Monument and Avenues. She played in The Gingerbread Man, which I believe was a Steven Seagal film. No, actually, it wasn't a Steven Seagal film. It was a film with Robert Downey Jr., though, a young Robert Downey Jr. and Kenneth Branagh. Deep Rising, she then played in. Then she was in Rounders. That was a card movie.
Oh, cool.
I forgot that she played in there. Okay. Then she was in The Adventures of Sebastian Cole. Of course, The Faculty was right before this. Filmed right before this, 1998. So that's why I kept seeing her. And then, of course, she went on to play in X-Men as Jean Grey. X-Men 2. She played in Don't Say a Word. That was a freaky movie. She played in the remake of I Spy. She played in a movie called Hide and Seek. Let's see.
I saw that one.
I remember her in a movie called 100 Feet.
I haven't seen that one.
She also played in Taken 2 and Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. But 100 Feet, she played a character who killed her husband in self-defense, but she's condemned to house arrest, only to discover that the house is possessed by an enraged and violent spirit of her dead husband.
Oh.
But so they put like this chain link thing on her that she can't leave the house, and she can only go 100 feet around.
Oh.
But in any case, what was your favorite scene?
Well, like I said, it was probably the final encounter between Evelyn and Steven. That was really interesting. Like when she came to his apparently dead body and started to say that she only loved his money and so on, and then it turned out he was alive, and that was a really good scene.
Yeah, it was a pretty good scene when Sarah shot the shit out of him, and then Evelyn came out in her black dress that made her look like she was Lady Death, and
Yes.
she walked up to him and she was like, "You know something, old man, I really just loved your money," and and that's when he woke up and grabbed her throat and was like, "Well, Evelyn,
Yeah.
why didn't you just say that from the get-go? But you know what? I think I'm going to murder you, just like we planned."
Yeah. Also, she looked really badass in that dress.
Yeah, she did. She did really look badass. And then, of course, I did kind of like how when he threw her into the thing, and she was like, "Are you doing this?" And he's like, "Evelyn, get up, run!" And of course, she
Yeah,
didn't get up and go right away. So, but that is also my favorite scene too. I have to admit. I mean, there's not that. I mean, it was a dramatic scene. I mean, it really was. Even though this was a remake, they definitely knew how to bring the emotion out. So,
yeah, definitely.
alrighty. Let's see. Let's look at music for a moment. See.
Oh yeah.
Well, I know that this had a kick-ass soundtrack.
Yeah, this one was impossible not to notice.
Sweet dreams are made of this. That's Manson. But
Yeah.
music was by Don Davis, and Don Davis did the music behind the Matrix trilogy. He
Ooh.
also did was the composer behind Jurassic Park 3. But he's also been part of the Heart to Heart series just a little bit back in the day. Hyperspace, Blackout from 1988, Beauty and the Beast, the series from 1987. Um, 48 episodes of that. Uh, he did some of the music to Tiny Toon Adventures. We're
Cool.
Kenny, we're Toonie, we're all a little loony, and this and Toonie, we're invading your TV. Let's see, but and Tiny Toon Adventures, How I Spent My Vacation. He did one episode of The Next Generation. He did some of the music behind Tasmania, Taz's show. Um, let's see, Sequest. He did 13 episodes of Sequest, 2032. I watched that movie, that series for a little bit. It was like a series in space with dolphins.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. He did the music by behind the TV miniseries The Beast, which kind of is connects to. We actually talked about The Beast on our show. So, let's see. Bound, The Matrix, Turbulence 2, Universal Soldier: The Return, Hellswarm, Antitrust, Valentine. That was a horror film. Uh,
Cool.
the Unsaid, Behind Enemy Lines, Long Time Dead, Murder in Greenwich, Final Flight of the Osiris, The Animatrix. Let's see. Tokyo Ghoul.
Oh, wow.
So that was okay. Tokyo Ghoul, the movie. He did some of the music behind Tokyo Ghoul. Interesting.
Cool.
And that was in 2017. 2018, he did Beyond the Sky,
Hmm.
which was in 2018, and it is a finished film. I think I've seen it out and about. Um, I just haven't seen it. But in any case, yeah, that's some of the music behind this. But in any case, is there anything else that you think that we haven't mentioned that we should?
Oh, hmm. Not sure. Uh,
Just gonna look here real quick. So evidently, these were produced by Robert Zemeckis and Joel Silver. Uh, and it featured special effects by famed makeup artists Gregory Nicotero and Dick Smith. Nicotero. He is special effects makeup from George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, and he was under tutelage of Romero and makeup effects veteran Tom Savini. I guess he did some stuff for the Frank Herbert's Dune. That was on Sci-Fi in 2000, and he also did some makeup for the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. He's also a makeup effects supervisor and director on the AMC TV series The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. He's directed 31 episodes of The Walking Dead and is the creator of the web series The Walking Dead webisodes.
Whoa.
So I guess he worked with Planet of the Apes and The Exorcist.
Whoa.
Also, let's see. Also on the film Predators from 2010. So that was kind of cool. And then let's see, the other guy, Dick Smith. Okay, so Dick Smith is known for such work on such films as Little Big Man, The Godfather, The Exorcist, Taxi Driver, and Scanners.
Cool.
Scanners was a cool film. Maybe eventually we'll have to check that out down the road.
We could. Why not?
Alrighty. Well, in any case, I think that's all the time that we have for today, folks. So thank you for listening to our ramblings on this film. I know it was a long journey to get to this point, but appreciate your time spent here.
Yeah, thank you all.
It was a fun time to talk about this version of House on Haunted Hill. And I know you watched it like 3 times within the last week. Did you really get tired of watching them again?
Not quite. The first time I watched it on Monday when we were supposed to have our discussion, but yeah, then it was postponed for today, so I rewatched it and then I watched it once more with you. So,
And actually, have you gotten sick of it?
well, not quite.
I mean, I'm not going to ask you to watch it again, but would you watch it again anytime soon?
Well, possibly.
Well, I know I always come back to films, but I will give this film a recommendation that if you have not watched this film, watch this one and its original, and then compare them back to back. It's
Yeah.
it's very cool, and the special effects are done by some amazing people, and it's just entertaining. I mean, and what more? What better of a movie to listen to Marilyn Manson? To be honest, and I would have to say, if you can do it in a haunted house, please do. That would even more put it in the mood for it. So, in any case, thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, and morning, wherever you are. Appreciate your time spent here on the page, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all.